Hello, this is Steve Olson. I'm the Manager of Training Services for Mesa. In this video, I'd like to take a look at finishing off the workflow that we've been developing that will allow us to go from a 2D floor plan to a 3D model. So let's just take a second and kind of recap where we're at right now, or kind of reset where we're at. I've started with an AutoCAD architecture 2D layout. I took that to Revit and I built walls and columns and things in that model. I took it to Navisworks to create an NWD file, which I can then attach to my recap model that I created as well through scans. I can view the Navisworks model overlaid the scan data by going to this real view. It'll take me to a scan location where I can look at my Navisworks model overlaid the scan data. You can see these white columns here represent columns from that. You can see that gray wall over there is from my Navisworks / Revit model. There's no windows or doors. Those weren't included in the floor plan. You can see I have a few deviations here. So how would I go about resolving that or working on that? Well, I have two options. One is to take measurements here and then go into either AutoCAD or Revit or both, depending upon which one I want to maintain, and make those changes. So let's say I want to add this door and I want to move this column over because apparently there's a discrepancy there. So right from here in this real view, I can go into this distance. And under distance, I have some different options. I have freehand, ortho, or surface. I'm going to just stay with freehand for right now to get this door measurement. Kind of pick up on a point here. It's going to try to find a point in the cloud. And you can see I'm right about 3 feet wide. And from the bottom up about 8 feet. So I can remember those. If I don't like seeing these here, I can control my annotations through my Project Explorer here. You can see I have them here. I can even delete them if I don't like them. I have a tendency not to want to leave them behind. So I'm about 3 feet by 8 feet for this door. If I jump to the other scan location using my map here, here's my 2 scan locations I can jump between. I can maybe get a better measurement about how this column is off. What I thought was kind of neat here is as I zoom in and out, you can see how the field of vision in this map also kind of widens or narrows, which I thought that was pretty interesting to see that. So distance here, it might be better for me to use the ortho. You can see when I use ortho, I can see X, Y, and Z. I'm going to focus on the Y in this case. Pick this plane, pick this point here. You can see I'm about 2 feet too far in that one direction. So let's take a look at adding those elements in the Revit model and then coming back and seeing those changes made here. So now I'm back in Revit and I want to move this pillar or column 2 feet closer to that other wall. So I'm going to kind of just get to a plan view here. I'll select my column. I'll do the move. I'll tell it I want to move it 2 feet. And there it is. Now you'll see here it didn't move the AutoCAD file. I could also go to AutoCAD. I could make the same change here in my AutoCAD file if I just use the move command. I'll select my object. Select my base point. And this file is actually in millimeters, not in inches, which I'll have to use 609.6. I'll save this. So now I'm back over here in Revit. If I go to my Insert tab, I can go to my Manage Links. on my CAD formats. You can see here, there is that file. I can tell it to reload. And you can see now that those columns are lined up a little bit better. So it's just a matter of knowing which files I want to maintain, if I'm going to use my Revit one, or if I want to keep both AutoCAD and Revit up to date. So now let's put a door in this wall over here. So I'm going to go to architecture, I'm going to go to door. The door was about 3 feet by 8 feet. I'm just going to use just a regular old door here. There's other types that would probably match closer to what we were using. I'm just going to use this one here, and I'm going to kind of throw it in. I didn't get a measurement from the corner here, but I'll just eyeball it, and we can kind of even adjust it after the fact. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that one in there. Let's go ahead and save this now. Now for this to get back into my recap model, I'm going to have to re-export an NWD, which is what Navisworks pushes into recap. So now here I am in Navisworks. I opened up my facility navis.nwf. You can see there is that door and there is that column that looks like it's been moved. So what I'll do is I'll have to again do a save as and save this as an NWD, which is what recap's going to want. You can see I have a Navis or facility Navis NWD. I'll just save right over top of that. It's going to warn me about, do I want to replace it? That's fine. I do want to replace it because what I can do once I get to recap is I can tell it just to refresh or reload that project attachment. So it looks like we've got our NWD, so let's go back to recap. I'll get out of my measurement tools. I'll go back to a 3D view. So here under my attached projects, here's my Navisworks. I can tell it to refresh or reload. So it says it was successfully refreshed. Again, we won't see that unless we go into a real view. Let's go to the other spot. It'll probably be a little bit easier to see. There you can see the door on the wall. I obviously wasn't in the right spot. Come over here, look at this column. Not as nearly as off as I was before. So there's definitely maybe a little bit further to go. But you can see there's some things here that I can kind of keep going back and forth and trying to correct. This wall is probably not quite right either. Let me jump back into Revit though. So I'll be able to show you how to load the recap model into Revit. So it'll be a little bit easier to overlay and work with. I mentioned early on that there is a way to attach the recap point cloud right to here and kind of work from this. So let's go just take a look at how that would work. So on my insert tab, I do have point cloud. And it'll allow me to kind of browse out to where I have that file saved. And there's this facility scan RCP. Go ahead and say open. Kind of throws it in there. And I'm not sure exactly why it doesn't want to land at our origin like you'd expect it to. But we can kind of position this. One thing I will show you here though is if I go to my manage links, I do have a point cloud tab and there is that RCP command. If I go to the visibility graphics, or VG for visibility graphics, you'll see that I have a point cloud tab. And if I expand this out, you can see I do have access to my scan regions and my scan locations. So if I turn off the ceiling, remember how we created a region for that, you say OK. And then we get a better glimpse into the facility because we don't have the ceiling in our way. Now you can see here that it's obviously, again, not lined up. The best way that I have found to line this up is to kind of just drag it and kind of position it. I've noticed between the recap model and the floor plan that I had generated or had previously, definitely seems to be some discrepancies here. Now, one thing I will say is we only have 2 scans, so that's definitely kind of a downside to what we've got. We don't have enough data really to kind of capture that facility. We've got a lot of bad pockets. You can see here I've got it fairly well lined up, and if I'm in a 3D view, which I believe I am here, I can orbit around and get a better idea of what needs to be addressed and moved. And there are some point cloud snapping tools inside of Revit here to kind of help me align these things, but you can see here I can kind of click here and I can reposition these things. And honestly, if I have a lot of issues, I probably would do this just because it'd be a lot easier to address and correct these things and snap to these objects. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me at my email address on the screen. And again, thanks for watching It's a CAD World.